The President. Questions. Question 1. Mr. Chan Kin-por. Thank you, President. It's been reported that the police recently arrested 275 people suspected of making fraudulent claims of traffic accident victims assistance, TAVA, disbursed by the Social Welfare Department, SWD, by producing fake medical proof or staging traffic accidents. The relevant cases involved 121 traffic accidents and an amount as high as $14 million. SWD has pointed out that obtaining TAVA by deception is a criminal offense, and the persons concerned may be prosecuted under the theft ordinance and be liable on conviction to imprisonment of a maximum of 14 years. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, of the number of TAVA applications referred to the Hospital Authority or the Department of Health for reassessment as the medical proof submitted was considered suspicious, as well as the number of suspicious cases referred to the police for thorough investigation over the past 3 years? Whether the police have taken law enforcement actions and prosecuted the persons suspected of obtaining TAVA by deception under the theft ordinance, if so, of the number of persons arrested and the penalties imposed. Apart from verifying medical proof with healthcare institutions, of the government's further measures in place to prevent TAVA frauds, such as stepping up investigation into applicants making multiple TAVA applications, as well as looking into the suspected issuance of fake sick leave certificates by the same healthcare institutions or doctors, and of the government's means to make members of the public clearly understand that TAVA fraud is a criminal offense subject to severe punishment. Secretary for Labor and Welfare. President, the TAVA scheme is a welfare measure administered by the SWD. The objective of the scheme is to provide speedy financial assistance to road traffic accident victims or the surviving dependents of deceased victims on a non-means-tested basis, regardless of whether the element of fault leading to occurrence of the accident is involved. In response to the question raised, my consolidated reply is as follows. 1. SWD strictly verifies every TAV application. According to the existing arrangement, SWD will seek written confirmation from the police regarding whether a traffic accident is involved in the relevant application and seek clarification on the relevant medical assessment information with the public or private medical institution which issued the medical certificate. If incomplete information and documents are identified or clarification is needed, such as when the medical certificate does not establish that the applicant's injuries were caused by the traffic accidents, SWD will make inquiries with the relevant medical institution concerned or request a reassessment to ensure that the injuries sustained by the applicants are related to the traffic accidents concerned. Over the past 3 years, from 2022-23 to the end of September 2024-25, SWD has verified medical certificates with public or private medical institutions for a total of about 5,600 times. SWD officers will continue to process the application in accordance with established procedures after confirming or clarifying the relevant medical assessment information. Besides, SWD officers will strengthen the verification of whether the applicant has made any claims for damages or compensation through other means for the same traffic accident. To avoid double compensation, SWD will timely inform insurance companies upon SWD's disbursement of TAVA payments to the applicant. If false medical information, fraudulence, or other criminal elements are suspected to be involved, SWD will refer the case to the police and will immediately cease processing the relevant application. In recent months, the police has arrested a number of individuals suspected of submitting fraudulent TAVA claims using false medical certificates and other methods. These arrests were prompted by suspicious applications identified by SWD officers during the application vetting process. Over the past 3 years, SWD referred a total of 575 suspicious cases to the police. Among these cases, 275 individuals were arrested for allegedly providing false medical certificates to SWD to fraudulently obtain TAVA payments. Questions 2 and 3. To prevent abuse of or fraudulent claims of TAVA, SWD has reviewed the case vetting workflow and increased random checks of medical certificates submitted by applicants. pursuant to the risk-based principle. In addition, for cases with repeated applications by the same applicant, SWD will require these applicants to provide more detailed information for investigation. SWD will also analyze whether the traffic accidents concerned share common features or suspicious elements. For applications involving interim maintenance grant and IMG, depending on the circumstances of each case, such as the length of IMG payment, SWD will check the applicant's traffic violation records with the police to verify their eligibility for the grant. SWD will clearly explain to the applicants that obtaining TAVA payments by deception is a serious criminal offense. Apart from losing their eligibility for assistance, applicants may also be prosecuted under the Theft Ordinance, Chapter 210, and be liable on conviction to a maximum penalty of 14 years of imprisonment. All applicants are required to sign the application form to acknowledge that they fully understand their obligation to provide accurate and truthful information, and that they will be criminally liable for obtaining TAVA by deception. In addition to disseminating promotional information through its website, SWD also posts press releases and broadcasts short videos on combating abuse or fraud related to TAVA in the reception area of the police of TAVA section to remind visitors that defrauding TAVA is a serious criminal offense with severe penalties. To enhance the integrity of the scheme and to ensure proper use of public funds, the government will conduct a review of the eligibility criteria and scope of the scheme, with a view to ensuring that traffic accident victims with genuine needs receive assistance in a timely manner, while preventing abuse and severely punishing criminals who commit fraud cases. Thank you, President. Mr. CHAN Kin-por. The insurance companies have made use of AI and big data to cater to the increasing number of fraud cases. There are over 10,000 cases of TA payment applications per year over the recent years. Will the government make use of AI to tackle the problem? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chen, for the question. In our current workflow, the SWD officers will have to meet with the victims or applicants to verify various information. We don't think that it's appropriate for us to make use of AI to process the applications. We do receive a lot of applications per year. We will consider making use of technology to analyze the case. Mr. Frankie Yik. Thank you, Secretary. I'm sure that you've heard me say this many times. The abuse of TAVA scheme has been here for a long time. This has become an industry, just like telescam. According to your third paragraph, I see that your officers have identified false medical certificates, and that's why you have mounted operations. What about cases that don't involve false medical certificates? Some perpetrators obtain sick leave certificates from chiropractors, for example, by overstating their injuries. 99% of these cases involve applicants saying that they have their backbone or their neck injured. As we are having so many of such cases, will the administration establish an institution to assess these applications? And when the administration come across such suspicious cases, please refer these cases to the insurance companies for follow-up as soon as possible. Secretary, thank you for the question. According to prevailing regulation, if the sick leave certificate or medical certificates are issued by registered doctors, we must accept them. But as I said in my main reply, we will review the details of the TAV scheme. I can share with you some details. Currently, the applicant can apply for 180 days of sick days. That's half a year. We will review if it's necessary for us to offer so many sick days. Maybe we will lower the ceiling. Applicants who have financial difficulties can apply for CSSAs. And we also have IMG. We will lower the ceiling of 180 days of sick days. Also, we have other schemes. we have grant for people who cannot work, who are injured, and so on. All we want is to tie these victims over the traffic accidents and their injuries. We will try to simplify the procedures. The money of the TAVA scheme comes from the levies on licensed vehicles, the levies on driving licenses. I think that we have to be prudent with our spending. We should disseminate payment that is of the same amount of the money that we received. We will review the scheme this year and we will submit the proposal to the panel for discussion. What question has not been addressed? The Secretary only talked about how to disincentivize people from making applications. The Secretary did not say whether they will refer the suspicious cases to the insurance companies. Secretary, thank you. If we are suspicious of these medical certificates, we will verify it immediately. When there is any fraudulent elements, we will refer the cases to the police. Mr. Robert Lee. Thank you, President. To prevent fraudulent claim of TAVA, will the administration consider blacklisting the medical institutions or doctors issuing false medical certificates or removing them from the register? Secretary. Some of the doctors are victims because sometimes the claimants falsify the medical certificates. However, if the doctors knowingly issue false or problematic medical certificates, then the medical council has their own mechanism to deal with such misconduct. We will act in accordance with the laws and regulations. Dr. So Chang-wing. President, the TAVA scheme is here to help victims of traffic accidents, but as this scheme is dispersed on a non-means tested basis, and with the loose eligibility criteria, this has given rise to fraud cases. Will the administration improve the procedures? The administration encourage members of the public to fill out a form to report on suspected fraudulent cases. How many reports have you received, and how many of such cases have been substantiated? Secretary, thank you. As I've mentioned, we are going to review the scheme this year. We'll look at whether we can lower the number of sick days granted to the applicants. We will also consolidate the types of assistance, and we will also be more prudent with our spending or payment disbursement. There are different ways for members of the public to report on suspicious cases or suspected fraudulent cases. SWD officers should also be the gatekeepers. The cases referred to the police was discovered by our SWD officers when they process the applications. I can supplement you with more information after the meeting. Dr. Tang Yuhen, with so many scams, so many false medical certificates, I think that the root of the problem is because of the loose eligibility of the TAVA scheme, because it's a non-means tested scheme and the element of fault is disregarded. Since 1979, there's not been any review of the TAVA scheme. Given our fiscal deficit, I think that we have to look at the assets of the applicant and the element of fault. President, thank you, Dr. Tan, for the question. The aim of the scheme is to tide victims of traffic accidents over when they come across financial difficulties. Only people in need will apply for TAVA scheme. The scheme is operated on a non-means tested basis, regardless of the elements of fault. We will review whether we should still offer 180 sick days for the applicants. As we have so many forms of assistance payments, we may have to consolidate them. As Dr. Tan said, we have to be prudent with our spending. We should only help victims in need. Ms. Yong Ha-yan. Thank you, President. I think that the intent of the TAVA scheme is great. The administration is trying to help the victims of traffic accidents. However, some criminals make use of some gray area of the scheme to defraud the society and the administration. Mr. Chan Kin-por asked if the administration will make use of artificial intelligence. The medical institutions, the police, and the SWD are the gatekeepers of the scheme, and they share information. I wonder if there will be a big data platform or an information gateway for members of the public or the SWD to submit information. Say the platform will be able to identify if the applicants or the applications are being filed by the same applicant or if the applications share some common features. Will you establish a platform for shared use among the 3 departments? Secretary. Thank you, Ms. Yong, for the suggestion. We won't be able to establish a one-stop platform yet. Well, we have to deal with the data privacy issues. But the SWD officers and the public medical institutions and the police work together very closely. Some applicants make multiple applications in a short period of time. These are suspicious cases that we will look into. Thank you, President. Mr. Tony Che. Thank you, President. In the main reply of the Secretary, it is said that over the past 3 years, the SWD has identified, or has referred a total of 575 suspicious cases to the police, and it seems that some 50% of the cases involve elements of deception. The SWD officers seem to have become more alert when they process applications. Do you have any guidelines for the SWD officers so that they can become more alert when they process the applications? It is said that the maximum penalty is 14 years of imprisonment. Is the deterrent effect enough? What is the highest penalty handed down by the court? Do you have such information? Is the 14 years prison term deterrent enough? Secretary. Thank you, President. Theft ordinance is under the purview of the Security Bureau and the police. It does not only target the TAVA scheme. Because this element of deception is involved, it is considered theft under the theft ordinance. More importantly, we have to tell the applicants that they should not break the law. We have mounted an operation. Hopefully, that will deter potential perpetrators. The scheme is to help people in actual need. For scammers, we will prosecute them. What question has not been answered? I ask whether the highest penalty handed down by the court is deterrent enough. I don't have anything to add. I have to collect such information from the police. Mr. Lai Tong-kwok. Thank you, President. I have a question for the Secretary. In the review that you're going to conduct, will you consider setting or creating a criminal offense for the deception of TVA payment so that you don't have to invoke the theft ordinance? Secretary, we don't have such a plan because this is an act of theft. If the medical certificate is false and no traffic accidents has happened, then the police should prosecute the relevant person by invoking the relevant theft ordinance. Mr. Chow Man-kwong. Thank you, President. To combat deception cases, will the administration make reference to the Cherish Public Housing Resources Scheme to encourage reporting of abuse? Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chow, for the question. All along, we have been encouraging members of the public to report on deception cases, but we don't plan to give out any rewards. Mr. Yim Kong. Thank you, President. The Secretary, in his main reply, said that the administration will inform the insurance companies upon payment of TAVA assistance. I think that the damages should be paid by the insurance companies instead of the SWDs. Secretary, the TAV scheme is to help the victims in need. That's why it's operated on a non-means-tested basis. It takes time for the victims to seek damages from the insurance companies. The TAVA fund actually seek refund from the insurance companies, and there is sharing of information between the fund and the insurance companies. The insurance companies have to refund the amount that we pay.
Question 2. Mr. Duncan CHIU. There are views that while the government has made efforts to promote the popularization of electric vehicles (EVs) in recent years, the relevant legislation is outdated and restricts the use of some deployed features of many electric private cars imported into Hong Kong. This not only undermines the maximum efficiency of EVs and the convenience they bring to drivers, but may also reduce the public's desire to switch to EVs, thus hindering the progress of the extensive use of EVs. In this connection, will the government inform this Council, 1. Regarding EVs currently imported into Hong Kong, whether it has studied and consolidated the deployed features that are restricted from use in Hong Kong? If so, set out the individual features that are restricted from use by EV brands and the legislation involved. 2. Whether it will conduct a comprehensive review on all the provisions under the Road Traffic Ordinance (RTO), which involve restrictions on the use of EV features, and study the possibility of gradually relaxing the relevant restrictions, as well as formulate a specific timetable for amending the relevant legislation. And 3. Whether it will review afresh and explore ways to improve the content of the relevant policies, regulations, and testing standards, etc., so as to provide a more friendly, barrier-free space and environment for the use of imported EVs. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President, in consultation with the Environment and Ecology Bureau, EEB, the Transport Department, TD, and the Electrical and Mechanical Services Department, EMSD, my consolidated reply to the questions raised by Mr. Duncan CHIU is as follows. 1 and 2. The TD has always kept an open mind to new vehicle technologies when formulating relevant legislation and technical guidelines to promote the adoption of new technologies in Hong Kong. The TD conducts timely reviews on the advancement in technology and liaises closely with the trade for feedback while taking road safety, local traffic conditions, as well as the regulatory experience of other jurisdictions into account. All vehicles, including electric vehicles (EVs), should make reference to the corresponding technical guidelines in accordance with the Road Traffic Ordinance (CAP 374) that is RTO, and its subsidiary regulations to pass the TD's vehicle approval mechanism such that the design, construction, and emission of vehicles comply with the legal requirements and are fit for road use before they are registered, licensed, and used on roads in Hong Kong. The Road Traffic Control Regulations, CAP 374G, also set out the relevant traffic equipment, traffic regulations, and traffic control matters to ensure road safety. Considering the above factors, except for the following two functions, the TD has already approved the use of all advanced driver assistance systems on the market, including automatic parking, side collision warning, vehicle hold, automatic steer, automatic lane change, lane keeping, cruise control, and automatic emergency braking system, etc., under specific driving environments in compliance with the China national standards, that is Guobiao, or relevant internationally recognized standards. Currently, the Road Traffic Construction Maintenance of Vehicles Regulations, CAP 374A, does not allow vehicles not limited to EVs to display information other than driving information in the Visual Display Unit VDU in front of the driver's seat. In addition, if a driver uses a mobile phone or mobile communication device to remotely park a vehicle, he will contravene the Road Traffic Control Regulations, CAP 374G, which stipulates that a driver is prohibited from holding a mobile phone or a mobile communication device while driving a car. The government is actively working on the legislative amendment and plans to submit the proposals to the Legislative Council within this year, such that the vehicle trade will be able to introduce the above two functions for drivers' use under the premise of ensuring road safety. 3. The government strives to promote the green transformation of vehicles, including offering first registration tax concessions to encourage purchase of EVs. The government is also taking a multi-pronged approach to expand the EV charging network in order to ensure sufficient and convenient charging facilities to cater for the needs of different types of EV. The TD has been working closely with the Environmental Protection Department to support the policy of carbon neutrality and climate action plan that promotes the use of EVs. For instance, with a view to supporting the introduction of different new energy vehicles, the TD issued a guideline document titled Vehicle Construction Approval Requirements for Electric Vehicles in 2010 to elaborate in detail the technical and safety requirements for EVs in Hong Kong. Meanwhile, the TD has also reviewed and updated guidelines, including the adoption of the National Standard Safety Requirements for EVs. The latest version was released in May 2023, providing further guidance and specifications on the technical and safety requirements for EVs and facilitating the vehicle trades in providing relevant information on EVs to the TD in order to simplify applications for EV approval. The TD has also updated the annex to the above guidelines in June 2024 to accept applications for vehicle type approval of EVs with battery swapping technology. In fact, over the past 3 years, the annual number of pure EV passing vehicle type approval has generally increased from a total of 145 pure EV models in 2021 to 164 models in 2023. As of the end of October 2024, the TD approved 144 EV models from the mainland and 400 EV models from other regions. To promote the use of EV and meet the needs of drivers, the government introduced EV maintenance service to the voluntary registration scheme for vehicle mechanics and the voluntary registration scheme for vehicle maintenance workshops in July 2024. The purpose is to keep up with providing continuous professional training to related technicians. As of November 2024, the EMSD has received approximately 400 applications from registered vehicle maintenance technicians seeking to add EV maintenance service qualifications, and the applications are being processed. The TD will continue to maintain close liaison with the trade, update technical guidelines, and streamline approval process in a timely manner to facilitate the introduction of more EV models that comply with relevant technical requirements. Thank you, President. Mr. Duncan CHIU. Thank you, President. Before I ask this question, I sent questionnaires to EV companies. I asked what functions were restricted, and they want to have relaxed requirements in relation to VDU while the car is being parked, and the activation of the system of remote parking. I discussed with the Secretary, and I'm glad to hear from the Secretary that they have answered the demand from the trade. There will be legislation amendments to this end. On the 23rd of November 2022, I asked a written question. Back then, the Secretary said that the government would amend legislation under the premise of ensuring road safety. The information on VDU would be relaxed, including video playback of the environment of the car. This question was asked in November 2022. In the first half of 2023, the relevant information will be tabled to the Council. It's been 2 years since. In the meantime, there have been a lot of EV applications. These functions have been restricted. EV technologies have been developing by leaps and bounds. In future legislative amendments, how can we keep abreast with the times and catch up with technological advancements? Otherwise, EV drivers would have to wait for 2 years before the applications are approved. Secretary. Thank you, President. In December 2022, on the functions of EVs, we discussed these functions in the Council. We plan to amend legislation in 2023. The legislative amendments straddled different areas, so it took longer time. As you know, EV technologies change very rapidly, and we cannot estimate the development of the Advanced Driver Assistance System, ADAS. The trade and the TD will maintain close communication. When there are new functions or when they come in the future, then we can make advanced preparation. We hope that when they make the application for EVs, we can approve the applications so the functions will be approved to be used in Hong Kong. In this connection, the TD will work harder in this area. Mr. Kenneth Leung. Thank you, President. We have driverless cars in Hong Kong. The TD has since approved quite a lot of projects, including the open roads in Hong Kong Science Park. There is an automatic vehicle driving system. At the airport, there is also a similar system. The Secretary mentioned earlier there would be 2 more routes, such as the Palace Museum. Is there any timetable to prepare for the automatic driving projects in Hong Kong? Secretary. Members right. In different contexts, we are trying driverless car. In Fairview Gardens, in Fairview Park, there is a project, and we also approved a project on Lantau Island. A small vehicle or a taxi is being tested on Lantau Island. At the end of 2025, in Hong Kong, Zhuhai, Macau Bridge Boundary Control Point, in the airport city, there is also an automatic driving project. There will be a dedicated lane for these vehicles. We are working on this front. In the urban area, we need to tread cautiously. Self-driving cars involve quite some complicated situations. Say, in roundabouts, we will have to conduct further tests to see the effectiveness of self-driving cars. We have different kinds of roundabouts in Hong Kong. For the roundabout of the university station, vehicles are traveling quite fast in the roundabout, and there is also a roundabout outside the Legislative Council complex. On Harbour Road, near Grand Hyatt Hotel, the angle to the roundabout is quite small, but there are quite many cars, so we'll have to tread cautiously. We'll use self-driving cars in new development areas NDAs, say Tung Chung. Afterwards, we will take into account the development of self-driving cars before they are allowed to be used in other areas. Mr. Adrian Ho, thank you, President. With the popularization of EVs, gas station business receipts have been affected. Rumor has it that the business of gas station would be sold. 83 gas stations have been invited to submit a detailed proposal. What information has the government collected? How many of these 83 gas stations can be changed into charging facilities or charging stations? Thank you, President. On the transformation of gas stations, will they be changed into a hybrid mode, that is a hybrid charging facility or a pure EV charging station? The EEB is conducting a study. I don't have information at hand now. After I have the relevant information, I will be in discussion with members. Mr. Chen Xiu-hong. Thank you, President. I'm glad to see from the main reply of the Secretary that the relevant legislation will be amended so that the above two functions will be allowed to be used by drivers in Hong Kong. However, the Secretary said within this year, the legislative amendments would be submitted to the Council. It's December now. I don't think there are such agenda items in the relevant panel meetings. I'm not sure when you will come to the Council for the discussion of these items. It's good that you will allow the use of these two functions, but the public may think that you will work on one thing when it comes to you. On promoting EVs or new energy vehicles, they have basic driving functions on the road, and there are also other additional functions. Secretary, will you be forward-looking? In your discussion with the trade, you can take more steps to amend the legislation. You can allow flexibility. That is the technological functions or advancement that we haven't yet seen today, but they may come in the future. We allow flexibility to cover these use in Hong Kong. Secretary, thank you, President. Thank you, Mr. Chan. In relation to whether we can be more forward-looking, legislation is for the relevant officials or committees to allow flexibility. After review by the officials or the committee, If the functions are considered appropriate to be used in Hong Kong, then we don't have to come to the council every time. After all, the legislative amendments have to do with subsidiary legislation, but it will take some time. The two functions we mentioned we'll have to look into these two functions. In other words, the applicability of these two functions in Hong Kong. It's not about legislative amendments. And around the middle of the month, we will propose these two legislative amendments. But member is right. When we need to amend legislation, we will have to spend some time preparing the proposed amended legislation. I will think about this, whether we can be more forward-looking, whether we can take more steps to consider this issue. Mr. Robert Lee. Thank you, President. Existing legislation doesn't allow the use of electric review mirror in the market. However, there are quite some video units called electric review mirrors in the market. On the 16th of December 2022, the administration said that CAP 3748 would be amended in order to provide for the function and specification of electric review mirror. And it will take effect 3 years afterwards. Will there be transitional arrangements so that vehicles equipped with electric review mirrors will be allowed to be used in Hong Kong? In December 2022, we discussed in the Council legislative amendments. One of them was the review mirrors. In the middle of this month, we will bring this topic up to the Council and we will discuss legislative amendments. We'll cover this item in the next round of legislative amendments. After the completion of the legislative amendments, the TD will discuss the details with the trade, the arrangements. We'll work fast in order to allow the use of this advanced driver assistance system for older vehicles. We want to provide a seamless manner for drivers to label their cars. And we will work with the TD to expedite this area of work. Thank you, President. Mr. Tony Tse. Thank you, President. Just now, the Secretary mentioned legislative amendments. We need to manage time well. Years ago, we discussed the safety of automatic parking. There wasn't a problem about automatic parking, but it took some time to finish the legislative amendment exercise. We need to strike a balance in the legislative amendment exercise. The Secretary may empower some officials together with expert committees to approve functions without having to amend legislation. In May 2023, we passed the 2022 Road Traffic Ordinance self-driving cars regulations. When it comes to testing, as I understand, it's only applicable to some auto-driving cars. Has the government considered expanding the scope in order to cover more self-driving cars? Secretary. Thank you, President. In the first half of 2023, we had a pilot scheme for the vehicle types, that is, some self-driving cars. Drivers have to provide information for the TD to approve the applications. In my main reply, in the examples I mentioned, in Fairview Park, there are minibuses. In the urban area in West Kowloon and in the Science Park, there will also be vehicles similar to minibuses. Last week, we approved the project on North Lantau. They are mini taxis. So we cover the majority of the types of vehicles. When they make applications to TD, we review the cases and approve these cases. Thank you.
Question 3, Professor Lau Chi-pang. Thank you. Regarding the Continuing Education Fund CEF, will the government inform this council? 1. Given that the subsidy ceiling of the CEF was increased from $20,000 to $25,000 per applicant in 2022, whether the government has considered further increasing the amount while lowering the co-payment ratios, that is, the percentage of fees to be borne by applicants, so as to encourage the public to pursue continuing education. 2. As it is learned that some of the CEF courses differ from non-CEF courses of the same type in terms of enrollment threshold, fees, course arrangements, and assessment methods, etc., resulting in people inclining to enroll in non-CEF courses, whether the government will consider improving the design and arrangements of CEF courses to enhance their attractiveness and competitiveness. And 3. In order to reinforce the position of Hong Kong as the 8 centres and develop new quality productive forces tailored to local conditions, whether the government will review the current social positioning of CEF courses and encourage institutions to offer more continuing education courses relating to emerging policies, including low-altitude economy, digital economy, innovation and technology industry, etc., so as to keep abreast of the times in promoting the development of these courses. Secretary for Labour and Welfare. President, the government established the Continuing Education Fund CEF in 2002 to provide subsidies to adults with learning aspirations to pursue continuing education and training. The CEF complements the trend of globalization and meeting the needs of Hong Kong's transition to knowledge-based economy. Hong Kong residents aged 18 or above, irrespective of their education, employment, or financial status, are eligible to claim for CEF subsidy upon completion of these courses. There are currently over 4,500 CEF courses offered by over 120 providers, providing diversified choices for learners. My reply to the question raised by the member is as follows. 1. To keep promoting continuing education and encouraging the public to pursue self-enhancement, the government raised the subsidy ceiling twice, in April 2019 and August 2022, from $10,000 per person at the time of the inception of the fund to currently $25,000 per person. The co-payment ratio by learners for the first $10,000 has been kept at 20% of the course fees, and that for the remaining subsidy is 40% of the fees. The objective of the co-payment ratio is to ensure that learners select courses prudently while preventing course providers from raising the course fees in response to adjustments of the subsidy ceiling. As at the end of October 2024, there are about 932,000 accounts under the CEF, of which about 5,700 account holders had used up the subsidy of $25,000, representing less than 1% of the total number of accounts under the fund. Meanwhile, nearly 90% of the accounts have an unused balance of $15,000 or above for learners to continue to take other courses. Currently, the subsidy ceiling will be used up when the accumulative course fees reaches 37,500. The median course fee of CEF courses is 7,800. The government is of the view that the current subsidy ceiling co-payment ratio can satisfy demand. The government will keep in view the operation of the fund and the views of stakeholders and consider the need to review as appropriate. CEF courses are subject to a quality assurance mechanism. All courses must be registered under the qualifications register and meet the registration criteria under the fund to ensure that courses will meet the requirements in respect of content, qualifications of instructors, methodology, and assessment methods in order to safeguard interest of learners. The government encourages the public to pursue continuing education. They can freely choose courses available in the market based on their needs and preferences. The National 14th Five-Year Plan supports the development of Hong Kong in 8 key areas, 8 centers. Currently, registered courses are related to the 8 centers. The government will continue to monitor the operation of the fund and is open to suggestions on optimizing its operation and on consolidating local training resources. Professor Lau. The fund was established in 2002. There are about 4,500 courses according to the reply. Well, I'm aware that the courses are updated to keep in view of the changes in the situation. I learned that there are major reviews in curriculums for primary and secondary schools. Now that there is a major trend of digitalization, we see electronic services, and the government is talking about a deficit. Does the government have plans to review to see if the 4,500 courses are updated to keep abreast of the times? Outdated courses should be phased out. We need to increase courses that meet our needs better. Is there such a need? Secretary. Courses under the fund keeps abreast with the times. The needs of applicants are taken into account. Course providers design different courses taking into account market conditions. There is quality assurance. Popular ones are quite practical. For example, security guard courses and related courses. These courses are for seeking employment. There are also driving courses for light goods vehicles, assistant physiotherapists, etc. You see that those who use the fund to take courses are those who want to meet the needs of employment. Of course, we will make arrangements and changes as necessary. Mr. Lam Chun Sing. Well, declaration first. I am also involved in organizing courses. About a decade or two ago, these are just to enhance knowledge, say, for example, relating to innovation and technology. And there are also other courses to enhance the skills of applicants. But it's different now. We now have the qualifications framework and the different requirements. Well, the security courses mentioned by the secretary is offered by the ERB as well. Some of the courses are open to university graduates as well. Are you concerned that there are courses that are duplicated, wasting resources? Is there a need to review the positioning of the CEF to ensure that resources are used in an optimal way and that courses are not duplicated? Thank you, Mr. Lam. This is not really a matter of duplication of use of resources. We're talking about more choices for the public. Some people choose ERB courses, the Employment Employees Training Board, or CEF courses. That depends on their needs. We have started the review of the functions of the ERB. there will be further reviews and planning in relation to the board. As I said in my reply, we keep an open mind to possible review of the CEF. The CEF and the ERB have different scopes, but the goals are the same, to help the public to pursue continuing education. We'll see how we can make better use of resources to do our work better. Mr. Tang Fei, thank you. Some members talked about the CEF as well as the ERB. Well, under the ERB, one can apply for subsidy as well. If someone applies for the subsidy under the ERB and the subsidy under the CEF, what will happen? The CEF is to pay course fees. If the person applies for both from both the board and the fund, that means that there will be a double use of resources. Is there an assessment mechanism in place to handle cases? We're now talking about a huge amount of resources devoted into training. Is it effective? Have you done any assessment? It's down to the person to choose. Some things, some wants to claim a certain amount under the ERB for the courses they offer, whereas some others may choose the CEF to continue their education. The economy of Hong Kong has been changing. In the past, when the manufacturing industry was dwindling, people want to be retrained to work in the service industry. Now, there is a technological advancement. So the board and the fund are both useful, and they are useful in their own ways. We will conduct a study to see how the CEF can serve Hong Kong better. Mr. Benson Lok, Hong Kong's economy is undergoing a transformation. I do think that the CEF can make contributions to the development of Hong Kong into the 8 centers, as well as to help Hong Kong young people climb up the social ladder. Our alliance has been advocating the use of CEF so that for different family members can also make use of the fund, and youngsters can use the fund to improve their social mobility. I see that there are registered courses relating to the 8 centers. Will you consider the suggestions of the BPA? That is, a higher subsidy is offered for courses related to the 8 centers. Secretary, thank you. Your good intentions are appreciated. You also want to encourage people to continue their education. But as to whether the subsidy can be combined for, say, a couple, as I said in the main reply, only 5,700 accounts of the 932,000 accounts have used up the amount. Majority of accounts still have unused amount left. So at the moment, we don't see any need to combine the accounts for the couple to use up the unused amounts of the other person. If we see a demand to use the partner's unused amount, then we will perhaps consider it. But currently, there is no such need. Mr. Kenneth Leung. Well, the manpower projection 2023 showed that in a lot of segments, say INT, aviation, shipping, there is a serious manpower crunch. So the CEF is a very good way for people to change their job, to help people change their jobs. Riding on the report of a manpower projection, how can the government ensure that the CEF can be used better to help plug the manpower gap? The projection is all the way to 2028. It has a very high reference value. apart from ERB and CEF course providers, I think the report should be considered by universities as well, because in the report you see the manpower situation, manpower shortages, and training needs of the workforce in Hong Kong. We'll ask course providers to take into account the changes in our employment situation and make adjustments accordingly. Mr. Johnny Ng. There has been constant improvement of the CEF. Now there are courses related to information technology and the A centers. In the past, we have done a lot of businesses with Europe, US. Now we turn to Middle East and South America. Will the government promote courses relating to the new trend so that business opportunities can be tapped given a change in geopolitical situation? Thank you. There are about 140 courses are related to languages. Most of them are Putonghua, Japanese, English, Spanish, Italian, German, and Portuguese. Most of these courses are languages of the West. When we have more contact with Belt and Road countries and the Middle Eastern countries, I hope to see more Arabian courses. Well, in South America, people speak Portuguese or Spanish, so there is enough courses to cover that. Ms. Eunice Yong, I have applied for a subsidy under the CEF. I've just completed distant learning from the CUHK in relation to the environment. I see from your reply that less than 1% of the account have used up the $25,000. For these people, do they think the $25,000 is enough, or have they stopped after one course? Have you asked the remaining account holders what their needs are and what kind of courses they need? And if the current courses meet their needs and preferences? Just now, members talked about AI courses and courses relating to the Middle East. Well, I only use it the second time after a decade, so it's not really continuing. It's intermittent education fund. So have you considered gauging the views of the account holders to see what their needs are? I don't think it's intermittent because we're talking about a whole lifetime, so it's continuing education. But thank you for the reminder anyway. In our way forward, we will take into account the needs of the 900,000 account holders. We are collecting data. We look at popular courses, say for example, security courses, beauty, physiotherapy, financial data analysis, and flower arrangements. So we do get a glimpse of what people need, but we will consider whether we can get more information from the account holders. Mr. Lai Tong Kwok. The balance of the fund, is it sufficient to allow an increase in the amount of subsidy? Now it's a flat rate. If there is a different amount for different courses, it will better reflect the original intent of the CEF. Thank you, Mr. Lai, for the question. We don't have this plan yet because the CEF targets everyone in the territory. So for the co-payment rate, for the first 10,000, the government pays 80. For the remaining amount, the government will pay 60%. I understand what you mean. You want more people to sign up for AI courses, and we can attract them to sign up by offering a higher subsidy. We will go back to consider it, but currently there is no such plan. Ms. Carmen Can. Some people of ethnic minorities who live in Hong Kong told me that when it comes to seeking a job in Hong Kong, they will need to be proficient in Chinese. So is the CEF open for application for ethnic minorities? Will you promote Chinese courses, writing and speaking courses to EMs? The fund is for Hong Kong residents, not necessarily permanent residents. Ethnic minorities, if they are residents of Hong Kong, they can apply under the fund. I understand that the Education Bureau has devoted a large amount of resources to teach ethnic minority students to speak and write Chinese. I think EM children who grow up in Hong Kong, they can speak Chinese and read some Chinese, but of course there are some who don't speak Chinese. Some NGOs teach them basic Chinese. It's not continuing education. For example, if you work in a kitchen, you know what is char siu or what is roast pork bun. These are terms that you need if you work at a specific workplace. So people of ethnic minorities who need basic Chinese may use these facilities instead of turning to the CEF. Mr. Chow Man Kong. We have about $10.6 billion left in the fund. With an interest of 3 or 4%, we're talking about $300 or $400 million. I think the scope is expanded to those who have a master's degree. And there are also people complaining that course fees are increasing. Will you consider increasing the ceiling from 25,000 to 40,000? Or would you consider a similar review like that in 2017? Secretary, I thank Mr. Chow for his suggestions. We also want to make good use of the fund. The finance of the fund is healthy. We are now reviewing the long-term positioning and strategy of the ERB. Inevitably, the CEF is involved as well because the fund and the board aim at better equipping Hong Kong people. Whereas we're looking at the long-term development of the ERB, we may also see if there is any room for improvement in the CEF so that it can be more comprehensive.
Question for Dr. Hoey Simon LEE. Thank you, President. There are views that the crossover tunnel or CHT toll plaza is strategically located. With the huge pedestrian and vehicular flows brought about by urban development, the planning and design of the CHT toll plaza should also keep abreast of the times to improve the environment of the Hong Kong district and optimize the use of land resources. In this connection, will the government inform this council? 1. As the government has indicated that the released spaces from the CHT toll plaza will be used to tie in with the development of the neighboring areas in the long run. Whether the government has formulated long-term development strategies and carried out greening and transformation in respect of the CHT toll plaza. If so, of the details and the implementation timetable. If not, the reasons for that. 2. As it is learned that a research team from an educational institution has suggested constructing a landscape podium at the CHT toll plaza, whether the government has assessed the feasibility of the suggestion. If so, of the details. If not, the reasons for that. And 3. Whether the government has plans to reshape the Hong Kong districts in accordance with the principle of single-site multiple use so as to optimize the redevelopment space of the CHT toll plaza and the waterfront resources of the Victoria Harbour, such as developing the districts into a tourist hotspot or leisure area. Secretary for Transport and Logistics. President, Hong Kong e-toll, a free-flow tolling service, has been smoothly implemented at all government toll tunnels and the Changsha control area. Thanks to the cooperation and support of the members of the public, the overall operation of Hong Kong e-toll at all tunnels has been smooth. E-toll brings convenience to motorists and provides the necessary infrastructure for the implementation of time-varying tolls at the 3 road harbour crossings, allowing members of the public to experience the convenience of smart mobility. Having consulted the DEVB and the Transport Department, my reply to the question is as follows. 1. With the implementation of Hong Kong e-toll as the CHT since July last year, coupled with the implementation of time-varying tolls at the 3 road hub crossings since December last year, the traffic at tunnel entrances and exits on the Kowloon side of the CHT has been smoother than before. The Highways Department has completed the demolition works of all toll booths, toll islands, and toll plaza shelters in the CHT. The Transport Department will make use of the released spaces to accommodate traffic management and road safety needs through strengthening the road alignment, with a view to further rationalizing the traffic at tunnel entrances and exits on the Kowloon side of the CHT. The relevant works are expected to be completed in early 2025. The TD will continue to review the future traffic condition of the road section and the spaces available, and proactively consider how to complement the development of the neighboring areas, such as the study mentioned below, and improve the traffic and cross-harbour bus service. Part 2 and 3 of the question. As proposed in the 2023 policy address, in order to revitalize the Hong Kong station and nearby sites, the government invited the MTRCL at the end of last year to conduct a study to replan and develop around 10 hectares of land covering the Hong Kong station and the railway facility sites in the vicinity, as well as the waterfront and the former pier facility sites to the south of the Hong Kong Coliseum. The study aims at modernizing the supporting facilities for the Hong Kong station, releasing commercial and residential floor space, and creating a vibrant harbourfront. Having regard to the replanning of these nearby areas, the study will also explore ways to enhance the pedestrian connectivity between Hong Kong and Tsim Sha Tsui East, and to improve the waiting environment of the bus stops at the CHT. In addition, the 2024 policy address further proposed making use of the waterfront sites in the vicinity of the Hong Kong station as covered by the above study for promoting yacht tourism. To this end, the government will explore the interests of the private sector in constructing and operating yacht berthing facilities. In order to provide diversified traveling experiences, the proposed yacht berthing facilities will not be standalone yacht club facilities. Instead, it will be developed together with land-based facilities for food and beverages, entertainment, and retail. The aforementioned study, currently being conducted by the MTRCL, is heading in this direction. The MTRCL will submit its proposal to the government by the end of this year. We note that the research team of the Hong Kong Polytechnic University once suggested constructing a green deck of about 30,000 square meters over the former toll plaza of the CHT. According to PolyU's design scheme, the deck proposed is sizable, covering the entire former toll plaza of the CHT. The deck has 3 main levels, offering a total floor area of approximately 45,000 square meters. In addition to green spaces, the project also includes commercial elements, including retail, dining, and exhibition areas. The project also contains proposals relating to multipurpose community arts spaces and improvements to the bus waiting environment. Out of technical considerations, cost of works, and other reasons, we have not included in any substantial way PolyU's original idea regarding the green deck in our invitation to MTRCL for conducting the replanning study. That being said, we have in fact incorporated some of the visions proposed by PolyU's research team into the replanning study. These include the provision of more green spaces, activity venues, and better cross-harbour bus waiting environments for the public, as well as the enhancements of the connectivity and pedestrian accessibility between the hinterland in Hong Kong and the harbourfront area, as well as Tsim Sha Tsui East, respectively. We have asked the MTRCL to propose measures that are technically feasible and cost-effective with such objectives in mind in the bid to rebrand Hong Kong into a new and well-connected landmark for leisure and tourism. Thank you, President. Dr. Lee. Thank you, President. I welcome the government's invitation to the MTRCL for conducting a replanning study, especially enhancing the connectivity between Tsim Sha Tsui East and the Hong Kong area. However, it seems that the study's scope only limits to enhancing the design of the Hong Kong station and enhancing pedestrian flow. will the MTRCL consider a design to help redevelop the old areas in Hong Kong and also boost businesses in Tsim Sha Tsui East? Secretary. Now, the report will be available later this year. The scope covers the 10 kilometers of land to the north and south of the Hong Kong area. The MTRCL will explore the commercial feasibility of those areas. It will provide a drive for the growth of business activities there. Now, there is an old terminal in the area. By revitalizing that area, we can provide food and beverages activities and retail activities. Also, pedestrian connectivity will be enhanced with the nearby Hong Kong Coliseum and Tsim Sha Tsui East. It will bring about impetus for redevelopment in the area. Mr. Perry Yu. Thank you, President. The Secretary's main reply covered the waterfront area in Hong Kong and also the Toll Plaza area. The main reply says that the government will study whether these places can be developed into a tourism landmark with yacht berthing facilities and other commercial activities. I fully support that. Mainland tourists come to Hong Kong via the East Rail Line and the high-speed rail at West Kowloon. These are the main railway crossings used by mainland visitors. Now, if we can make this waterfront area on the Kowloon side robust, that would be a good design option. According to the main reply, the MTRCL has been invited to conduct a replanning study. The study has been ongoing for 1 year. Now, just now, the Undersecretary said that by the end of this year, the report will be ready. There are not many days left until the end of this year, so I hope that we can see the result as soon as possible. Undersecretary for Development. Thank you, Mr. Perry Yu. Yes, the year is coming to an end soon. It is about time the MTRCL submits the report to the government. After receiving the report, we will conduct an internal review on the proposed design. Our plan is that after completing the scrutiny in the first half of the year, we will share the plan with the public. And then follow-up actions will be taken, for example, completing the statutory procedures. That's the timetable for now. Mr. Ronnie Chan. Thank you, President. Now, the replanning study covers the promenade and also the pedestrian connectivity between Tsim Sha Tsui East and Hong Kong, and also enhancing the waiting environments at bus stations. But for the last one, I don't think we have to wait until the report is ready. Now, with the freed up space from the demolition works of the Toll Plaza, we can immediately improve the waiting area. It is a tiny space with a lot of passengers waiting. Now, can we first improve the bus waiting environment at Hong Kong? Secretary for Transport and Logistics. Thank you, President, and I thank Mr. Ronnie Chan for his question. Enhancement to the bus waiting environment is one of our objectives. Since the replanning study also covers the adjacent areas, so we need to take into consideration the long-term planning for the nearby areas as well. For example, maybe the bus waiting location will have to be moved. So we have to wait for the recommendations made by the MTRCL before we can implement a permanent change to the bus waiting environment. That would be a more pragmatic approach. Thank you. Dr. Chan Kong. President, now besides the cross-harbour tunnel, after the time-varying toll arrangements, all three tunnels have freed up a total of 12,000, 4,500, and 5,000 square feet of space. It is altogether some 230,000 square feet of space. Now, if we can make use of half or even one-third of the space, it would be very beneficial. So would the government invite universities or private land developers to submit proposals or even organize a competition to collect views? Now, for toll plazas outside, say, Chang Kwan-o Tunnel, there should be long-term planning so that we can utilize the release space fully. Secretary, after the implementation of the free flow tolling service, we have been able to make better use of the road service outside the three tunnels. We have been able to free up some space which were used by vehicles. So today we're talking about the CHT, about the Eastern Harbour Crossing and the Western Cross Harbour Tunnel. We are also exploring the same direction, not just the TD. Policy bureaus are also involved because we need to consider whether there is room for developing the nearby areas as well. The government is conducting an integrated review on the use of the release spaces. Mr. Tony Jie. Thank you, President. Now, making good use of the released space after the demolition works of the toll plaza at CHT and creating synergy between the toll plaza and the nearby residential areas is a good thing. I support it. Now, I think the replanning study is a little bit behind schedule because there are already a lot of developments in Hong Kong. Now, for some streets in Hong Kong, especially near the funeral houses, can we enhance the streetscape there so that the atmosphere will become less gloomy? Secretary. Thank you, President. Now, the funeral parlors in Hong Kong, they have been there for a long time. Can we come up with a plan to improve the atmosphere or ambience in the area? Well, that can be a study topic. The government can do a research on how we can improve the ambience in the area, not just the road network. It is a community topic, so I have to convey your message to the relevant departments. Mr. Chan Xiu-hong. Thank you, President. Now, the CHT Tunnel Toll Plaza is strategically located. It has a very favorable locations, and it is near the promenade. This is one of the important nodes for developments in Kowloon in the future. So I think the government has to be more aggressive in the design. Now, in the previous 2 years' policy addresses, the government has floated a concept for developing the area. Now, the MTRCL will come back to you with a plan later this year or early next year. But I'm concerned. Despite the directions given by the government, the MTRCL may still be focused on the railway network and also the nearby areas. Further away, towards the north and south, especially near the waterfront, I think the MTRCL would not be as interested in developing these areas. So what about interested parties like land developers in the private market? So like the Northern Metropolis, can we invite them to participate in a public-private partnership to develop the areas to the north and south of the CHT and also the Tsim Sha Tsui East Promenade? It is a very rare plot of land, important for the development in the next 3 decades. Under Secretary, thank you. The scope we gave to the MTRCL is 10 hectare large. As we said, the study will cover more than railway network. For example, yard berthing facilities, and also how we can improve the connectivity around the Hong Kong station, and also improvements to the areas along the promenade and near the Colosseum. So the MTRCL will take a comprehensive look in the developments of the area. I agree with Mr. Chan Xiu-hong's suggestion. That's why we have conducted a lot of market sounding exercises when we take forward mega projects like the Northern Metropolis. However, the government will conduct an internal review on the reports first, and in the first half of next year, we will share the results with the public, and we will explore collaboration with the private markets then. Ms. Eunice Yong. Now, the CHT Toll Plaza has been the same for decades. Of course, the Toll Plaza is no longer there, but the design is still outdated. Now, we have the Asian Games and we have the Kai Tak Sports Park. Just a little bit away from the CHT, you can reach Kai Tak. It's just 5 minutes drive. So in terms of cityscape and also the sports theme or even the day and night vibe theme, will the government consider using attractive lighting to make the aesthetic better? I'm not just talking about the tunnel area. This is the entire Kowloon area. So how can we improve the aesthetic of the facilities? Secretary. Thank you, President. I thank Ms. Eunice Yong for her question. Now, in mainland cities, the authorities would try to build authentic style structures. Now you can see that the CHT building and the CHT tunnels design is historical. They are characteristics. They look classic, so I think we should keep them. Now about the nearby ambience, can we create synergy between the tunnel and the upcoming mega events and put up decorations to create an ambience of mega events? That is a good suggestion. But I have to emphasize one point. We're talking about a tunnel. We need to consider traffic safety. So we would take the perspective of traffic safety before considering any decorations. But I agree with Ms. Eunice Yong's suggestion. Mr. Lai Tong Kwok, President, I think the yacht industry would be very excited about the main reply today. Hong Kong has a serious shortage of yacht berthing facilities. Has the Secretary considered that if this concept comes to be real, will there be contradictions between the berthing facilities and the protection of the Harbour Ordinance? Under Secretary. Now we will review any proposals. Realistically speaking, at the warehouse hinterland, there is an extended facility protruding onto the sea. In the past, it was used to berth cargo or goods vessels. But thank you for raising the question.
多謝主席。
Question 5, Mr. Chan Pui-leung. Thank you, President. The voluntary health insurance scheme, which was fully implemented on the 1st of April 2019, aims to provide the public with an additional choice of using private healthcare services through hospital insurance. Regarding the implementation of the scheme, will the government inform this council? 1. Of the number of policies of certified plans, the sums insured, and the age distribution of insured persons under the scheme to date, whether the authorities have estimated the total savings in public healthcare expenditure since the implementation of the scheme. If so, of the details. If not, the reason for that. 2. Of the number of taxpayers who claimed tax deduction for participating in the scheme and the total amount of qualifying premiums allowed for tax deduction in the past 3 years of assessment, whether the authorities have plans to further raise the ceiling for the scheme tax deduction in the future so as to encourage more people to participate in the scheme. If so, of the details. If not, the reasons for that. And 3, given that the scheme has been implemented for more than 5 years, whether the authorities will conduct an interim review on the scheme and set a target for the number of scheme participants in the future. If so, of the details. If not, the reasons for that. Secretary for Health. President, I provide a consolidated reply to the question raised by Mr. Chan Pui-leung as follows. The Voluntary Health Insurance Scheme, or VHIS, is one among many medical insurance products. The government introduced the scheme in April 2019 to establish standards and improve market transparency for individual indemnity hospital insurance products, or IHIPs, providing consumers with greater confidence in using private healthcare services through purchasing health insurance. VHIS certified plans need to fulfill a number of requirements on consumer protection, including 1. Guaranteed renewal up to the age of 100, regardless of any change in the health conditions of the insured persons. 2. No lifetime benefit limit. 3. Covering unknown pre-existing conditions and day case procedures, including endoscopy. 4. No unreasonable charging of differential premiums on individual policy holders. And 5. Covering psychiatric inpatient treatments in local hospitals. There are 2 types of VHIS certified plans, namely Standard Plan and Flexi Plan. Standard Plan benchmarks the minimum complying requirements, including the basic benefit coverage and specified claimable amount, whereas Flexi Plan allows greater flexibility in product design by insurance companies to offer additional protection on top of Standard Plan, such as higher benefit limits and broader benefit coverage, to cater for the needs of different consumers. To provide an additional incentive for further encouraging citizens in purchasing the certified plans, taxpayers are allowed to claim tax deductions for VHIS qualifying premiums, which they paid for themselves and all specified relatives. The maximum deductible amount of premiums paid for each insured person is now to $8,000 per year of assessment. VHIS has been launched for nearly 5 years, 3 of which coincided with the COVID epidemic, when the usage of private healthcare services by Hong Kong residents was significantly impacted. Both the service volume and location pattern also differed considerably as compared with the pre-COVID era. It is therefore premature to draw any conclusion on the effectiveness of the scheme at this stage. As at the 31st of March 2024, the number of policies of the certified plans under the scheme was about 1.341 million, with 97% of the insured person having purchased flexi plans. This shows that many consumers in the market may prefer having a higher level of medical protection. Among all insured persons, more than half, that is about 53% of them, were below the age of 40. About 35% were aged 40 to 59, and about 12% were aged 60 or above. The younger profile among policyholders has been in line with the government's policy to encourage citizens to get insured at a younger age.
Despite the epidemic, the number of VHIS policies has recorded steady growth. The latest figure as at 2023 shows that VHIS policies accounted for nearly one-third of the IHIP market share in Hong Kong. We believe that the scheme will become the mainstream standard for the IHIP market in the long run and provide citizens with greater confidence in purchasing VHIS products to choose private healthcare services when they need, thereby alleviating the burden on the public healthcare system. Based on the latest information available from the Inland Revenue Department, in the 3 years of assessment from 2020-21 to 2022-23, there were 247,000, 329,000, and 404,000 taxpayers who claimed tax deductions, respectively, involving a total of $1.693 billion, $2.355 billion, and $2.987 billion in VHIS qualifying premiums. For instance, about 74% of the insured persons had their paid premiums fully deductible in the year of assessment 2022 and 23. We consider that the current ceiling of tax deduction remains appropriate, and we review it from time to time in view of economic development and market demand. The Health Bureau will continue to monitor the implementation of the scheme, collect market data, and canvass the views of various stakeholders so as to align it with various public health policies of the government. As an example, in view of the imminent operation of the Chinese Medicine Hospital of Hong Kong, the government has initiated dialogue with the insurance sector on covering relevant medical expenses under the scheme in future. Relevant discussions are actively underway. Moreover, the government is willing to review the possible areas of refinement for the scheme in due course, such as the benefit items to be covered, service charges, and benefit limits. This serves to ensure that the scheme can keep abreast with the latest trends in the healthcare market and achieve sustainability while catering for the needs of the public. In the meantime, the government will focus on deepening reform of the healthcare system. As announced by the Chief Executive in his 2024 policy address, the government will develop quality indicators for public and private healthcare systems and explore legislating for private healthcare price transparency to enhance service efficiency and address the issue of medical inflation with a plan to consult the healthcare sector next year. Other measures include establishing a professional platform for developing evidence-based clinical protocols and exploring the feasibility of devising service quality and efficiency standards for public and private healthcare sectors, as well as amending relevant legislations to require all healthcare providers to deposit essential health data in the personal e-health accounts of the public. These would contribute to enhancing the quality and efficiency of healthcare services in Hong Kong. Mr. CHAN Pui-leung. Thank you, President. The VHIS has been implemented for 5 years, and the claim amount has been on the rise. A lot of the claim amounts cover common or non-urgent treatments, for example, endoscopy services. And this gave rise to the claim limits as well as claim amounts. Will the government review the scheme so that the scheme will be in line with the usage of participants under the scheme and to prevent abuse of the scheme? Secretary, I thank Mr. Chan for the questions. Some users use the scheme for skin treatment. 10% of the population has the skin problems, and 60% of the patients, they suffer from this virus, and this virus cause warts and they might disappear themselves. Some of the items covered in the plan, they do not include cosmetic surgery. For warts that are grown on feet, this may require a medical procedure or treatment. However, for cosmetic treatment, they aren't covered under the VHIS plans. I do want to tell members of the public that for mild treatment procedures, even for VHIS plans in the long run, they should not be covered under the insurance plans because this would give rise to the insurance premiums. So we will revise the VHIS and we might revise the coverage under the VHIS certified plans. Thank you. Mr. Peter Xu. The purpose of this VHIS is that we want members of the public to help lessen the burden of the public healthcare system by using private healthcare services. Many people in Hong Kong have taken out insurance plans. A lot of them who take out private insurance plans, they opt for services in the public healthcare system instead of using private healthcare services. How can the government ensure that people under VHIS would use private healthcare services? Secretary, according to surveys of the government, that is number 78 of the report, we see that about 3.45 million people, they have taken out personal insurance plans or group insurance plans under their employers or companies. So they are under a certain level of coverage. However, still half of the respondents are not insured. Mr. Xu said some people who have taken out insurance, they do not use private healthcare services. Firstly, this is the choice of patients. Second, this has to do with the healthcare system. For people who use private healthcare services, we need to ensure that the pricing can be transparent so that we can allow patients to have a better idea of the estimated budget if they want to use private healthcare services and whether the insurance plan will be able to cover the claims. So we do want to enhance price transparency for private healthcare services. Also, we see that there are different types of treatments for different types of illnesses or diseases. Apart from enhancing price transparency, we have to ensure that the public get the treatment they need with the money they pay. We have to look at the risk of complication as well as different data. So we want to make all this information transparent so that people can use the healthcare, private healthcare services with peace of mind. Professor Chen Wing-kwong. The government said that it would study including services provided by the CM hospital into the voluntary health insurance scheme. Will the government undertake to negotiate with the insurance sector to ensure that the insurance premium levels will not increase significantly if the services of the CM hospitals are included in the VHIS plans? Secretary, currently traditional CM services aren't covered by the VHIS. However, given that the Chinese Medicine Hospital will provide inpatient services starting from 2026, we have started discussing with the insurance sector as well as the CM sector about the insurance policy. So there might be a revision to the VHIS before the operation of the Chinese Medicine Hospital starts. We understand that there may be a change in the premium levels, so we have to see if the premiums will be affordable by the public before we come up with the final plan. Mr. Dominic Lee, in your reply, the Secretary mentioned that the ceiling for tax deduction is now at an appropriate level. Will the government consider raising the ceiling of tax deduction so that more people from the middle class can benefit from VHIS? Secretary. Currently, under the scheme, taxpayers can claim for tax deduction for the plans they buy for themselves as well as their specified relatives, including their spouses as well as siblings and grandparents. For each insured person, say if I take out insurance for 10 of my relatives, for each insured person, the deduction ceiling is $8,000 per year. For the year of assessment 2022 to 23, the tax deduction or the tax deductible amount is about $2.987 billion in terms of the qualifying premiums. As to whether we will raise the ceiling of tax deduction, we see that 74% of the insured persons had their paid premiums fully deductible. With this in mind, we think that the $8,000 tax deduction ceiling is appropriate. However, as we work to transform our healthcare system, we will continue to review whether we should raise the ceiling. Thank you. Mr. Ronald Chen, in the major reply of the Secretary, it is mentioned that 53% of the insured persons under the scheme are young people. Has the government looked at whether people from the same age groups has reduced the use of public healthcare services so that the scheme actually has been working? Secretary, we don't have the relevant statistics in hand for participants aged 50 or below. They amount for the biggest group of participants under the scheme. And for those who use the public healthcare services most frequently, they are the elderly people. For elderly people aged 65 or above, compared to those aged below 50, the usage of public healthcare services is 9 times of those younger. For young people who have taken out insurance under the scheme, do they still use the public healthcare services? I believe a considerable amount of them still use the public healthcare services. Reason being that some of the items, whether they are covered under the VHIS plans, is not clear. That's why a number of participants, they are still using the public healthcare services. Also, a lot of the items covered, like significant surgeries, they aren't provided in the private sector. So in some cases, young participants under the scheme, they still opt for public healthcare services. I don't have the specific figures in hand, but I understand that most of the users under the public healthcare system, they are age 60 or above. Dr. Tan Yue-heng. Mr. Ronald Chen asked this question just now. According to the Secretary's reply, VHIS participants account for 1/3 of the insured persons in Hong Kong. And VHIS will become the major segment for IHIPs. One major purpose for this scheme is to lessen the burden of public healthcare system. Mr. Ronald Chen mentioned that over the past few years, probably some people use the public healthcare system less, but the government said that it doesn't have the relevant information or statistics in terms of the reduced use of public healthcare services. But since the participants account for 1/3 of the insured persons in the market, I believe it might help ease the public healthcare system. I want to know how effective this scheme has been. Secretary, The scheme has been implemented for 5 years, and 3 of which coincided with the COVID pandemic. During COVID, a lot of people avoided using, or they changed the mode of using public healthcare services. In 2021 or 2019, the use of private healthcare beds was 62%, and the number dropped to 47%. However, we see that the percentage rebounded to 54%, but we still haven't recovered to the pre-pandemic level. So we can't draw any conclusion on the effectiveness of the scheme yet. We need more time, and we have to wait until the usage rebounds to pre-pandemic level to make an assessment. Also, services provided in the private sector are different from that in the public sector. For example, liver replacement surgeries are only offered in the public sector. Overall speaking, we need more time to see the effectiveness of the scheme in terms of how much it's helping with the public healthcare system. Dr. David Lam. When the scheme was first rolled out, we wanted to encourage patients to use private healthcare services instead of public services. A lot of the terms and benefits covered by the insurance plans under the scheme are great. Over the past 5 years, I see that the claim amounts under the scheme have dropped. Will the government review the VHIS, including amending the terms or conditions of the insurance plans? Currently, we have 1.3 million policies under the scheme. We have 35 claims, and 90% of them were successful reimbursement, and the average claim amount was about 90%. Previously, the percentage was just about 80 to 85%. For reimbursement cases, 40% of the participants got full reimbursement. So we believe the claim amounts are high. However, we will review the VHIS as appropriate.
Last question seeking an oral reply, Professor William Wong. This year's policy address has proposed to continue to take forward the blueprint for the sustainable development of agriculture and fisheries, which includes the development of deep-sea mariculture at Wong Chuk Hoi and Murris Bay new fish culture zones, and the promotion of leisure farming and fisheries. There is also a plan for the Murris Bay Yan Chao Tong Eco-Recreation or Tourism Circle in the Northern Metropolis. Besides, the Shenzhen Ocean Development Plan 2023 to 2035 published by Shenzhen last year has proposed coordination between Shenzhen and Hong Kong on the protection and utilization of natural resources around Murris Bay sea areas, islands, etc. There are views that great opportunities are present for Shenzhen-Hong Kong cooperation in promoting the marine economy in Murris Bay, alongside the potential for building a blue granary there. In this connection, will the government inform this council, 1, whether it has discussed with the Shenzhen municipal government co-management and cooperation on marine ecology conservation, modernized aquaculture, and scientific research, etc., in relation to fishery development in Murris Bay? If so, of the details. If not, whether it will engage in discussion with the Shenzhen municipal government on the development of Murris Bay into a blue granary. 2, regarding the establishment of the Murris Bay Yan Chao Tong Eco-Recreation Tourism Circle, of the progress of cooperation between the SAR government and the Shenzhen municipal government on tourism, bioindustries, marine industries, etc. And 3, whether it has promoted mutual cooperation among industry, scientific research institutions, and higher education institutions in Shenzhen and Hong Kong in areas such as basic marine scientific research and higher education. If so, of the details. If not, how the government will foster such cooperation. Secretary for Environment and Ecology. President. Having consulted the Culture, Sports and Tourism Bureau, the Innovation, Technology and Industry Bureau, and the Education Bureau, my reply to the question of Professor William Wong is as follows. 1. The government has been working closely with Shenzhen on the conservation of the marine ecology of Moose Bay and the development of the new fish culture zone in the area, with a view to creating synergy between the development in Hong Kong and Shenzhen. For the conservation of marine ecology, Hong Kong and Shenzhen have maintain communication and cooperation through the Moose Bay and Deep Bay, Shenzhen Bay areas environmental management special panel that is jointly established by the EPD Environmental Protection Department and the Ecology and Environment Bureau of Shenzhen Municipality. The collaboration focuses on protecting the water environment of Moose Bay and achieving the goals for sustainable development. With the concerted efforts of both governments, the water quality of Moose Bay has been good. This is crucial for the conservation of marine ecology, particularly for hard corals in the northeastern waters of Hong Kong. To promote deep-sea mariculture, the AFCD, Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department, has designated a new fish culture zone at Moose Bay with an area of approximately 400 hectares, encouraging fishermen to use steel truss cages or other types of deep-sea cages at the new fish culture zone, in order to increase mariculture production and value by adopting a modernized mode of operation. Meanwhile, the AFCD has maintained a close working relationship with Shenzhen Municipality and trade organizations in fisheries development. For instance, the Ocean Development Administration of Shenzhen Municipality, Hong Kong and Macau Floating Fishermen Business Office, as well as Hong Kong and Macau Floating Fishermen Association of the Shenzhen Municipality, and actively promoting technical exchanges and communications between fishermen in Hong Kong and Shenzhen. Hong Kong and Shenzhen also collaborate to enhance aquatic biodiversity and fisheries resources. For instance, for National Fish Release Day next year, Hong Kong and Shenzhen are planning to conduct a joint restocking activity in Moose Bay. We will continue to deepen our cooperation with Shenzhen in this area. In addition, the AFCD worked with the Shenzhen Institute of Guangdong Ocean University to explore technical collaborations on aquaculture technology and conducted reciprocal visits and exchanges. In January 2024, the AFCD, the Hong Kong Fishermen Consortium, and trade representatives made a visit to the Institute and conducted discussion sessions on various topics. They also visited the breeding base of the Institute and the Moose Bay National Marine Ranch Workstation to explore the direction of future cooperation. In respect of tourism, the CSTB said, through the Working Group for Shuttlecock Cooperation Zone jointly established by the Hong Kong and Shenzhen governments, it will work together with the Shenzhen side to promote cultural tourism cooperation in Shuttlecock, leveraging the opportunities brought about by the designation of Robin's Nest Country Park in March this year as the 25th country park in Hong Kong by the EEB, the AFCD, and the Municipal Planning and Natural Resources of Shenzhen have signed the Cooperative Framework Agreement for the enhancement of Wutong Mountain and Robin's Nest Ecological Corridor. Besides, the Countryside Conservation Office will promote new in-depth eco-tour experience by organizing, for example, the island hopping tours under the theme of Sight, Sound, Taste at Kuk Po in Shuttlecock early next year to enhance public awareness of conservation and to facilitate urban-rural symbiosis and generate economic benefits. The government attaches great importance to scientific research exchanges and has been enhancing Hong Kong's INT ecosystem for different technology areas, including marine technology. As indicated by the RTIB, there are 16 state key laboratories in Hong Kong, one of which is one of marine pollution. The laboratory is committed to collaborating with scientific research teams in the mainland and other regions to conduct innovative research, especially in the areas of pollution monitoring, environmental risk assessment, ecological restoration, and to contribute to the protection and management of the marine environment. The ITC Innovation and Technology Commission also provides funding to 6 designated universities to support their teams in starting technology businesses and commercializing their research outcomes. Some of these startups engage in R&D projects on marine technology and undertake part of the R&D activities in the mainland. In addition, the public R&D centers will continue to drive technological development in different areas, including marine technology, through interactions with the mainland, especially the mainland cities of the GBA. On education, the Education Bureau has indicated that the UGC-funded universities have all along been able to flexibly offer different programs having regard to different factors. These universities have offered marine science-related programs in recent years to nurture more marine science and research talents. In addition, the government endeavors to drive, facilitate, and encourage higher education cooperation between Hong Kong and the mainland, especially in scientific research collaboration that would proactively leverage Hong Kong's function as an international R&D center. Thank you. Professor William Wong. This year, I made an advocacy statement to the CPPCC to develop the Greater Bay Area into a blue granary. Fisheries would make good use of technology in future. And I do see the government will set up a fisheries research center in the Northern Metropolis in future that should facilitate that. Would the government consider setting up a preparation committee beforehand and invite academics and experts to advise on the operations of the fisheries research center? I specifically mentioned that Fisheries Research Center should make good use of marine studies and the resources of Mersey Bay and better collaboration between Hong Kong and Shenzhen to develop a blue granary. Thank you. Secretary. President, to support aquaculture, the government will establish the Fisheries Research Center in the Northern Metropolis to conduct further research on aquaculture as well as testing, including breeding, feed, prevention of diseases, and processing of aquaculture products, setting up a platform for collaboration and exchanges between Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area mainland cities. It would involve intelligent management of the industry and enhancing support for collaboration between Hong Kong and the mainland. There is much room for collaboration in this area in processing, consumption, and circulation, etc. This scheme has much potential. Professor Wong asked if we would set up a preparation committee. The department, I believe, will make adequate preparations. They will consider your suggestion. Thank you, Mr. Yan Wing-kit. Thank you, President. For the blueprint for the sustainable of agriculture and fisheries, it mentions specifically some new fish culture zones will be set up, especially one in Mersey Bay. And recently, some members and I visited the Tongping Chao Seal Trust Deep Sea Cage Zone. After seeing that, I can see that there is much potential. There are 2 types of fish bred in the area. They may live in different waters, but then they have a very high survival rate of 90%. This is definitely beneficial for the use of deep sea cage operations. It's not just about fish being expensive that would motivate fishermen to transform. with higher production, it would also incentivize them. Has the government researched how we can breed expensive fish, and that would still incentivize fishermen to go into deep sea cage operations? Thank you. Secretary. Thank you. In order to promote the sustainable development of local fisheries, we have been promoting the use of deep sea cages. We have reserved 600 hectares of land for deep sea cage operations. We expect that in the next 5 years, we will be able to double our production. In 10 years, we will have a fourfold increase. And in 15 years, it can go up to 15-fold. For the increase in value of production, it's not just about increase in production itself, it's about creating value. And the members suggested breeding expensive fish that would help with increasing the value. We have done some research on this. The AFCD has been working with some companies, universities, as well as fishermen organizations. That would be the China Ocean University as well as Hong Kong University. They are testing operations with expensive fish. And once we have achieved such experience, accumulated experience, we will share with the trade so that they can make use of such experience in their operations. And in future, we should see intensification of production. We would see some findings next year. And the PolyU has been researching using good feed that has nutrients that would help fish grow bigger. And we will continue to work on this. Thank you. Ms. Judy Chen. Thank you, President. As mentioned by the other member, we visited the operations of deep sea cage zone in Tung Lung Chau. We have seen much, but then we do not see many tourism facilities in the area. We have talked about how we have the Robin's Nest Ecological Corridor as well as Yan Chao Tong. How can we actually develop blue tourism further and enhance public awareness on this? Thank you. Secretary. In 2023, end of October, the government promulgated the Northern Metropolis Action Agenda that would include the eastern part of Hong Kong, Robin's Nest, Lin Ma Hang, Shuttlecock, etc., to be a blue-green ecotourism circle to tap into the opportunities of tourism in this area. The EEB has been adopting a multi-pronged approach to promote this. We have designated the Robin's Nest Country Park to develop ecotourism further. The AFCD will put in other hiking trails as well as revitalized facilities. I will not go into details here. The member's question is mainly on blue economy. We have many islands. We have Apchel, Cat O, Shuttlecock. We also have fisheries operations in the area. It is about how to integrate all these operations. In Apchel, there is a Hakka village. They have a Hakka exhibition gallery that talks about the Hakka lifestyle. In Cat O, there is also a similar gallery. There is also a Tin Hao temple. And the gallery in particular, which showcased the lifestyle of fishermen. We want to create an integrated environment to develop island hopping tours so people can go to different islands in the area. The Countryside Conservation Office would do so on a pilot basis next year, and they will adopt the theme of sound-sight taste, hold cultural activities, culinary activities, to bring tourists to different places in the area. We hope that with this we will have a new direction of tourism, and the EEB fully supports such efforts. Thank you. Professor Lau Chi-pang, thank you. We are surrounded by seas. We grew from a fishing village to the metropolis we are right now. We have been talking about marine economy. We have more seas than Shenzhen, but Shenzhen is more advanced in developing marine economy. They have a nature museum set up specifically. With rich resources in Hong Kong, we have Laufa Shen oysters, we have abalones. We have been talking about having more museums. Can we have a specific museum on ocean in Hong Kong? Thank you. Well, thank you for the question. The question scope is a bit broader. Perhaps we will need to consult the other bureaus to provide a specific answer. But I would say this, the Countryside Conservation Office has set up galleries in different places to talk about the different characteristics of the places, the history. So essentially, these would be mini museums. I talked about the galleries in Ap Chau and Cat O. They are galleries, basically tourist centers that would provide information about the places to tourists. Thank you. Mr. Tan Ka-Pu, I have a specific question on marine economy. We really need to tap into the value of islands. We have Tung Ping Chau. It is a famous tourist destination, but it does not have water or power supply. How can we leverage on the cooperation between Hong Kong and Shenzhen to provide water and power supply in Tung Ping Chau? Thank you. Secretary, well, there are various issues with the power supply in Tung Ping Chau. We have been talking to CLP to see how they can supply power in the area. They have provided us with some proposals, but if there are more affordable and feasible proposals, we will keep an open mind to make sure there is water and power supply for residents.
Government bills, first reading.